So Ravens flock, we've gotten some encouraging news regarding our wide receiver room now that OTAs are underway and we're seeing some players on the team for the first time. First things first was DeAndre Hopkins on his Instagram story. He posted a picture of what apparently is a leaderboard that's at the facility. They're currently tracking who had the fastest track times on the field during day 2 of OTAs, and surprisingly, DeAndre Hopkins was tied with Tez Walker for the second fastest time on day 2, where he hit 20 miles per hour, which is very impressive at this point in his career. Again, D-Hop was never known to be a burner per se, but D-Hop's calling card in his prime was the fact that he was the full package. So clearly he is trying to let it be understood that he still feels as though he is still that dude, and I'm interested to see how things play out with him. It was also reported on the Baltimore Banner, like the Baltimore Banner has put out some information regarding how OTAs have gone so far. One of the main things that they've reported is the fact that D-Hop and Lamar, they're building some chemistry. D-Hop caught a couple passes. D-Hop, even on one play, apparently got a little separation from Nate Wiggins to make a difficult catch on this against the sideline, which I was excited to hear about, especially because he did this against Nate Wiggins, who I believe is going to come out and have a very good second year, where he may mess around and even look like a lockdown corner. So for D-Hop to do that at this point in his career, I do think that is extremely impressive. Something else that the Baltimore Banner reported is that Tez Walker apparently is catching a lot of people's eyes and he's flashing. Now, we all have to take all of this information with a grain of salt, regardless of who it is, just because of the fact that it's OTAs. We're not going to really get an idea of what's going on until later in the year, once we get closer to the season actually starting. But this is still something that you want to hear. Of course, you want to hear, like I said a few videos ago, I want to hear about second year guys that are taking a step forward, or at least it's looking like they may be in a position to take a step forward. And you never know, maybe Tez will have that opportunity. Reportedly, he was catching passes over the middle, on the outside, screen passes, like he was being put in a bunch of different positions. Now, I'm assuming that's a good thing. They want to see how versatile he is, or versatile that he is. But then on the flip side, I am kind of curious how Tez is realistically going to get on the field. If Tez has taken a step forward, this would be exciting, of course. Like, Steve Smith is somebody who, when it comes to his opinion of wide receivers, I do take Steve Smith's opinion very seriously. He has been on point with a lot of receivers. When it came to Tez, he did say that he believes that by Tez's second year, he could take somebody's job, which I don't think that's going to happen in the second year, but that does show how much potential he believes that Tez has. And I'm sure many Ravens fans can agree with that. There's not much that we can really predict when it comes to what Tez could be, just because he pretty much was never on the field last year outside of that one touchdown catch against the New York Giants. And it still confuses me how later in the year Anthony Miller was able to leapfrog him. But nonetheless, there's still potential with Tez, of course. I'm just curious, is he gonna find a specific thing that could allow him to have an excuse to get on the field, or at least have a better chance of getting on the field? Because right now, you look at some other guys on the roster when it comes to our depth chart at wide receiver. You obviously have the rookie, LaJohntay Murray. I wouldn't assume he's above Tez, but at the same time, because of what he could be as a special teamer, as well as the fact that he's somebody that is going to be used primarily as a slot receiver, you can see opportunities for him to have a better shot at getting on the field. Even with somebody like a Tylan Wallace, who doesn't get on the field a whole lot, he's still a guy who's kind of become a fan favorite amongst Ravens fans, because when it comes to Tylan Wallace, regardless of how people feel about him, whenever Tylan gets a chance to make something happen, Tylan makes something happen. even with few opportunities, at the very least, you can count on Thailand to make something happen or to, at the very least, catch the ball. So I think that alone will get him a good amount of snaps on the field, especially because Harbaugh prefers to prioritize the veterans, especially if it's a veteran who, even though he may not have the most potential, he is still a guy who is not going to make silly mistakes. So that combined with the fact that Thailand is also another guy who has been clutch in the past on special teams, I can see him getting on the field a lot. I don't know how realistic it is to expect Tez to do a whole lot. I would be happy if Tez even got like 20 catches and like maybe 150 to 200 yards, maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns, just because barring a catastrophic injury, there really shouldn't be too many scenarios where Tez is on the field like that, especially if D Hop is determined, like if he's hell bent on letting it be understood that he still has a decent amount left in the tank. Like if he's trying to come out here and have like a Derrick Henry year, which isn't super realistic to expect, but if he even gets close to that, I mean, it's going to be hard to get Tez on the field because you still got Zay and Bateman on the field as well. And as far as D Hop's expectations, I'm still gonna say I would be happy if he just gave us 500 to 700 yards and maybe 5 touchdowns, just which, depending on the situation, that's not bad at all, especially if most of those yards and catches and touchdowns were in very big moments, which D Hop in his career has showed you that he is more than capable of making big, clutch, difficult catches in big moments. That I would be very excited about that, you know. And another thing, to go back to the point about different receivers and them having a lane to where, you know, that alone is going to allow them to have a better chance to get on the field. When John Harbaugh yesterday was asked about DeAndre Hopkins, he already made it clear what their goals are when it comes to D-Hop. Like he already said, like, hey, he's going to be like our big body receiver who's going to make those contested catches. And even though DeAndre Hopkins is not like the biggest receiver, he's still like a big enough human being, and he has the wingspan. And he also has built his legacy at this point off of some of the most difficult contested catches that we've seen over the past decade. So I'm excited to see how this plays out. At the very least, even though it's still early to tell, this still gets me excited when it comes to the depth we may now have at the wide receiver position. Of course, there's no Justin Jefferson on this team, obviously. There's no Jamar Chase. There's no A.J. Brown or CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill. You know, those top guys, I don't think we truly have that top end talent per se. But if D-Hop even has 70% of what he was still in the tank, that combined with Zay and Bateman entering their prime, I think, and then on top of that, we still got Tylan Wallace, who's a reliable safety net. And then on top of that, if Tez has taken a step forward, in my opinion, there's really impressive depth at the wide receiver position this year. I'm excited to see how it goes. But let me know, are you surprised that DeAndre Hopkins hit 20 miles per hour at this age? Like, he's young in human years, but in football years, I mean, it's been over a decade. Like, are you excited? Are you surprised by that?